The 1969 Stonewall riots in New York have been remembered as the beginnings of gay militancy. But 3 years earlier, on a hot August night in 1966, dozens of drag queens and gay hustlers made history by fighting for their right simply to gather at a San Francisco restaurant called Gene Compton's Cafeteria. That story has never been told, until now. I said I made this film 10 years ago now on the Compton's Cafeteria riot, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do after that. It's like I really loved making film. I was kind of at a crossroads because it's like I had not been able to find tenured track employment as a professor in the U.S. Academy. I mean, I'd done a lot of work, I certainly feel like I'd made an influence, but it wasn't turning into a job, that I'd always worked as an independent scholar, I did my publications, I wrote things, I made film, I was running the GLBT Historical Society in San Francisco, and then I really fell in love with filmmaking, and I thought, oh, I'm kind of at a crossroads here. It's like, do I want to go into film, full time and make that my livelihood? Or do I want to, kind of keep it on the side and pursue an academic career? And that while I was right at that crossroads, I heard this interview with Christine Jorgensen. I'm always doing research. And I heard this interview with her and Mike Wallace, the U.S. television journalist who was on 60 Minutes. And this is from, I forget exactly when, 1956, 57, somewhere around there. And she said this thing. She said, well, Mike, I used to work in the cutting room. I worked at RKO Studios, before my transition. I was an editor, I was a film cutter, I worked in the cutting room.
GI arrives home from Denmark where doctors converted him into a woman. 2 years ago, the name was George Jorgensen. Today, it's Christine.
Have you been offered a movie contract?
Yes, but I haven't accepted it.
Do you have any plans regarding the theater?
No, I don't think so.
Hey, Christine!
Are you going to go on with your photography?
I hope so, yes.
I see. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I used to work on one side of the camera because I didn't know how to appear on the other side. And it was just like this light bulb going off in my head. And I'm thinking about this trans woman who but always been really interested in photography, who was working literally as a film cutter, like the person who would take the developed film and cut it into sequences and put it on the light tray, and then the editors would come in and go, we need that one and we need that one. So pretty low level work, but the way she's narrating it years later, it's like, I just had this vision of her standing there on the cutting room floor and thinking, right, you cut the medium, you splice the medium together, you project through the medium tells a story, it finds an audience, and that there was this way that it was like, I see her as like taking cinematic techniques of image making and media manipulation and changing her position, moving from behind the camera to in front of the camera by making herself the medium that is cut, right? And so she goes from one kind of cutting room to another kind of cutting room through a technique of visualization, a cinematic apparatus, and thinking about transsexuality as a cinematic apparatus. It's like, oh, okay, there's, Walter Benjamin has written something on that, and Teresa de la Redes has written something on that, and, there's all this stuff on, haptic cinema and embodied cinema, and it's like, and boom, I was immediately off into like film theory world. And I thought, I have to make a movie about this. I wanted to make a movie that showed on screen the ideas about cutting and media manipulation and image creation that I think Jorgensen used. So it's like I was trying to come up with the form, you know, for the film. I wanted it to be this kind of fantastical film where the voiceover is by Christine Jorgensen posthumously after death, you know. It's like, so it's not actually Jorgensen speaking, it's me writing voiceover narration for the Christine Jorgensen character who's speaking to the audience from inside the cut of the film, you know, so that the voice is not represented on screen, that you create the images not simply as on screen, not just like representing the ideas being talked about, but you're calling attention to the materiality of the filmic medium, that it should have lots of cuts in it, so that you're really calling attention to the editing process. And I thought, yeah, I'm gonna make an art film. I'm gonna make an art film about Christine Jorgensen's transsexual embodiment in cinema.
This is Christine Jorgensen speaking to you from inside the cut. On December 1st, 1952, I became the most famous woman in the world simply by becoming a woman in the world's eyes. One of my doctors invented a word, transsexual, to describe people like me. I wasn't the first person to change sex through surgery and hormones, but I was the first to become a global spectacle by doing so.